AITA for telling my roommate that if her boyfriend is basically moving in, the rent and bills change. Yesterday I saw a roommate post blowing up again. The exact same argument I lived through. Boyfriend stays over, then suddenly your flat is a couple's home and you're the spare human funding it. Names changed for anonymity. I'm Mara, late 20s, London, normal office job. I'm not dramatic by nature. I like clean counters, predictable bills, and living situations where I don't feel like a guest in my own home. My roommate was Liv. We weren't strangers. We'd known each other since uni, drifted in and out of the same friend group, and when we both needed a new place, it felt like a safe adult choice. She wasn't messy. I wasn't uptight. We signed a lease together, split everything 50-50, and moved into a 2-bed that was decent for London standards. Tiny kitchen, 1 bathroom, living room that fit a sofa if you didn't mind brushing past it. The first few months were fine. We did the standard roommate rhythm. I bought bin bags and forgot to ask for money. She stole my paprika and pretended she didn't. We laughed about it and moved on. Then she started seeing Callum. At the start, I didn't care. He came over on weekends. Normal. He was loud in that, I'm harmless and funny way, always talking like he needed a reaction. But he wasn't rude to me. And Liv seemed happy, so I kept my opinions to myself. The problem was the way weekends turned into whenever he wants. It happened in tiny steps, the kind you don't clock until you're already living in the new reality. Thursday night became normal, then Tuesday. Then he started showing up with a backpack on Monday and leaving Thursday morning. Then, one day, I opened the fridge and realized an entire shelf had become his. Energy drinks, chicken breast, plastic tubs, a protein powder tub the size of a baby. I told myself, okay, maybe he's meal prepping here because it's closer to work. Annoying but whatever. Then I noticed a second toothbrush. Then a pair of trainers by the door that never moved. Then a hoodie hanging on our hallway hook like it belonged there. Then I came out at midnight for water and he was in the living room in his boxers, scrolling through our TV like he lived there. He looked up and said, cheerful, oh hey, you alright? Not sorry, I didn't realize you were up. Not I'm crashing here. Just a man in my flat, half naked, acting like I was the one wandering into his space. I went back to my room and sat on my bed, staring at the wall, thinking, I didn't agree to this. But I also didn't want to be the controlling roommate who hates her friend's boyfriend. I didn't want to be labeled jealous or bitter or weird. So I swallowed it, like you do when you think being polite will fix it. A week later, Liv said casually while making tea. So Callum's going to be staying here more often. I said, more often how? She didn't look at me. She was stirring her tea too hard like she needed the spoon to survive. I waited for her to add, if that's okay with you. She didn't. I said, Liv, is he moving in? She did this half smile like I was being silly. Not officially, he's just here. His mum's is a nightmare and it's easier for us. For you, I said. She sighed like I'd already started a fight. Mara, it's not that deep. That phrase, it's like a warning siren. It means, I'm doing something selfish and I need you to shut up about it. I said, if he's living here, we need to talk about rent and bills. Her head snapped up. Why? Because there are now 3 people using the bathroom, kitchen, electricity, water, I said. And I'm not paying half while you 2 live here. She crossed her arms. We're sharing 1 room. It's still a 2-bed. Rent is based on bedrooms. That's not how it works in real life, I said. You don't get a free extra adult because you've squeezed him into your room. She stared at me like I'd insulted her. So you want us to split it 3 ways? I want it fair, I said. I'm not even saying it has to be exact thirds. But it can't stay 50-50. Liv's face hardened. So you're punishing me for having a boyfriend? No, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm refusing to subsidize him. We didn't shout that time. We did the quiet angry thing. Cupboard doors closed a bit harder than necessary. Without sorry. Silence in the hallway like we'd turned into strangers overnight. And while I was trying to be mature about it, Callum moved in anyway. Not officially, obviously. Just, his stuff started appearing. A suitcase in the hall. Then a laundry basket. Then bags of clothes that stayed even when he went home. Then a massive gaming chair that got dragged into our living room like a throne. He set it up facing the TV and didn't ask. Just did it. I came home from work and found him sitting in it, controller in hand, volume high, feet on our coffee table like it was his. I stood there for a second watching the scene like my brain couldn't process it. Liv was in the kitchen chopping onions, smiling to herself, completely unbothered by the fact our flat had become their shared space and I was the spare. The bills started creeping up. Electricity higher. Water higher. Not catastrophic, but enough that I noticed, because I track my spending. Liv sent me a screenshot of the bill and her usual message. Half each, kiss. I stared at my phone and felt something snap into place. I replied. We need to revisit split since Callum is here basically full time. 6 hours later, she responded. He's not full-time. Also, he buys food sometimes. That's when I knew this was going to be a proper mess. Because he buys food sometimes is not rent. It's not utilities. It's not wear and tear and the fact you now have to schedule showers like you're living in a hostel. I decided to talk face to face. I walked into the living room. Callum was playing something on the console, shouting at the screen like it had wronged him personally. Liv was on the sofa on her phone. Can we talk about rent and bills? I asked. Liv didn't even look up. What about it? I said, Callum's here almost every night. It's not fair for me to pay half. Callum paused his game and looked at me like I'd interrupted something sacred. I'm not living here. I looked at the gaming chair. Right. Liv said sharply. Don't be sarcastic. I took a breath. Callum, where do you sleep most nights? He hesitated, then said, here, but I still have my room at my mom's. So you live here, I said. You just also store some stuff at your mom's. He scoffed. That's not living here. Liv jumped in. He's not on the lease, that's what matters. It matters to the landlord, I said. It doesn't change the reality of 3 adults in 1 bathroom. Callum shrugged. I can chip in for bills, but rent is between you two. That line told me everything. He didn't see himself as moving in with Liv, he saw himself as moving in for free. I said, if you're living here, you pay rent. He laughed, short and nasty. Why would I pay rent for a place I don't have a room in? Liv nodded like this was brilliant logic. Exactly. We share a room. I tried to keep it calm. You don't just pay for a bedroom. You pay for the whole flat, the kitchen, the living room, the bathroom, the space. Callum leaned back. This is too much. You're making it a thing. Liv said, it's not that deep. There it was again. Like a little hammer hitting my patience. I said, okay. Then here are the options. Either we agree on a fair split or Callum stops staying here so much. Liv's face twisted. You can't tell me my boyfriend can't stay. I can tell you he can't move in, I said. Callum smirked. If you don't like it, move out. And I swear, the way he said it wasn't even angry. It was casual. Like he'd already decided I was the disposable one. That night I lay in bed listening to them laugh in the living room and the flat felt different. Not just noisy. Not just crowded. It felt like my home had been quietly taken over while I was trying to be polite about it. So I did what I always do when something feels unfair. I went to the paperwork. I read the lease. Twice. There was a clause about additional occupants. Guests were allowed for short stays. Anyone basically living there needed written approval. Standard. I didn't want to be the person who emails the letting agent. I genuinely didn't. But they'd left me no room to solve it privately. Every conversation ended with it's not that deep or move out. So I emailed the letting agent with a neutral question first, like I was just clarifying. They responded quickly. Long-term partner staying regularly counts as an occupant and needs approval. Otherwise it's a breach. They asked if there was an issue. I stared at the email for a full minute, then typed, yes, my co-tenant's partner is staying here consistently. Please advise next steps. Within 48 hours an email went to both of us. Reminder of the clause, request to confirm current occupants, and a polite warning about lease compliance. Liv stormed into my room without knocking. She'd never done that before. She looked like she'd been drinking anger all day. Did you email them? She demanded. Yes, I said. Her voice shook. What the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? I repeated. You moved someone in and expected me to pay for it. He's not moved in, she snapped, but her eyes flicked away. The letting agent doesn't agree, I said. They want confirmation. Liv pointed at me like I was disgusting. You're trying to get us evicted. I'm trying not to get blamed when we get caught, I said. And I'm trying not to be financially screwed. She slammed my door so hard the wall shelf rattled. Callum came over that night and didn't even pretend to be friendly. He looked at me like I'd ruined his free ride. So you went to the landlord, he said. I went to the letting agent, I corrected. Because you're living here and you're not approved. He stepped closer, not full on threatening, but close enough to push the point. You could have talked to us. I did, I said. Multiple times. Liv stood behind him like backup. You were being unreasonable. I laughed once, humorless. Unreasonable is expecting me to pay half for a flat occupied by a couple. Callum said, I'm not signing anything, so calm down. Liv looked at him for a second, and I saw it. She'd assumed he'd eventually do it properly. He wasn't going to. He wanted the benefits without the responsibility. The next few weeks were miserable. They were colder, sharper. Not dramatic fights, just constant low-level hostility. The kitchen would be wrecked and I'd get we were going to do it. My food started disappearing more. I kept my groceries in my room like a paranoid goblin. Someone accidentally used my expensive shampoo and then didn't replace it. Callum started taking long showers, and when I knocked because I needed the bathroom before work, he shouted, 2 minutes, and then stayed in there another 15. One morning I told him, You can't take half an hour when there are other people. He smirked and said, "All right, Mum." That was the moment I started keeping notes, dates, times, what happened. Not because I thought it would become legal. Just because I needed something solid when they kept acting like I was overreacting. Then rent day came again. Liv paid her half like nothing had changed. She messaged, "Sent XX." I looked at the number in my bank app and thought, they're really going to do this. They're going to push until I either give up or leave. So I messaged her. "I'm not paying half next month unless we agree a new split." She called immediately. "No hello, just, you can't do that." "I can," I said. "And I will." "You're being unfair," she snapped. "We signed a lease. It's 50-50. "We signed a lease for 2 occupants," I said. "You changed the occupancy without agreement." "He's my guest," she said. "He's allowed. He's been here every night," I said. "That's not a guest." Then she said the thing I knew was coming. "You're just jealous." I actually laughed out loud. "Jealous of what?" "Of us," she said. "You're miserable and you hate that I'm happy." It was such a lazy insult and it pissed me off because it worked in a social way. People hear that and they go, "Oh, bitter single roommate. Problem solved." I said, "I don't care that you're in a relationship. I care that your relationship is living in my home rent-free." Silence. Then quietly, "If you don't like it you can leave." There it was. The threat. The plan. Push me out. Keep the flat. Keep the cheap split. I said, "Okay." She sounded shocked. "Okay. I'll leave, but you'll need to cover my share until you replace me and the letting agent has to approve." She scoffed, trying to sound confident. "We'll manage." After that, I started looking for someone to take my room. This is where Liv panicked. Because it's easy to tell someone to leave when you assume they won't. It's different when you realize you might have to pay full rent or admit your boyfriend has to be on the lease. I scheduled viewings. Liv started sabotaging them. She'd act overly sweet but drop little comments like, "Mara doesn't like guests." Or, "We're very social here. Lots of people in and out." While Callum sat there making the place feel hostile. One woman left and texted me later that she didn't think it was the right vibe. A guy asked about quiet hours and Callum laughed and said, "It's not a library." He didn't take it. After the second failed viewing, Liv cornered me in the kitchen and said, "You're doing this on purpose. You're picking people who won't fit." "I'm picking people who can pay rent and won't move a partner in," I said. Her eyes filled with tears, the controlled kind. "I can't afford this place without you. I thought we were friends." I almost felt bad. Almost. Then I remembered her telling me to leave and calling me a snake. "I thought we were friends too," I said. "Friends don't move their boyfriend in and expect you to fund it." She wiped her face and said quietly, "Callum said it's normal." "Of course he did," I said. "It benefits him." A week later, the letting agent emailed again asking for confirmation of occupancy. They wanted Callum's details if he was to be added. Liv still didn't reply. I replied, "I'm arranging a replacement tenant and vacating." That's when Liv fully turned on me. She screamed. She called me selfish. She said I was obsessed with money. She said I was ruining her life. Callum walked in halfway through, heard the argument and said smugly, "So you found a replacement? Good." Liv rounded on him, voice shaking. "You could have just agreed to pay." He held his hands up like she was being irrational. "Babe, why would I pay rent somewhere I'm not on the lease?" And there it was, out loud. The whole philosophy. Not "we're building a home," just "how can I get the most for free?" Eventually I found Hannah, a quiet grad student who was desperate for a room and had no partner. I did the viewing when Liv was out so there'd be no sabotage. Hannah liked the place, asked sensible questions and applied immediately. The landlord approved her. The letting agent drew up the paperwork. Liv delayed signing for days like a tantrum, then finally did because she didn't have a choice if she wanted me off the lease. On my last night, I packed boxes while Liv and Callum watched TV in the living room like I was moving out of their place. I carried the last bag to the door and paused. "I hope it was worth it," I said. Liv didn't look up. "Whatever." I left. A month later, Hannah texted me. "Hey, sorry, do you know if Callum was ever meant to be on the lease?" Letting agent emailed again. I stared at the message and felt that ugly mix of anger and vindication. I replied, "He was never approved, be careful." She said, "He's here every night. Liv says it's fine." I told Hannah the truth, the clause, the warning email, everything. She thanked me and said she'd handle it. 2 weeks after that, a mutual friend mentioned Liv had to move out. Not dramatic eviction, just landlord didn't renew after occupancy issues. Liv ended up staying at Callum's mum's for a bit, which was apparently a nightmare, and then they split not long after. I don't feel proud about any of it. I don't feel like I won. I lost a friendship, I moved house, and I spent months feeling tense in my own home. What I do feel is clear. When someone tells you it's not that deep, they usually mean they want you to stop asking questions while they keep taking. It is that deep. It's your money, your space, your peace. And if your roommate's boyfriend basically lives there, you're not sharing a flat with a friend anymore. You're subsidizing a couple. If your roommate moved their partner in and still expected you to pay 50/50ths, would you go straight to the landlord or try to negotiate first? Let me know in the comments.